Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 426, recorded live on Sunday, April 17th. I'm your host, Patrick. This week's screenshot is Dibus defeating the Truthful One in the 266th screenshot of the week. Was a nice victory shot there, slaying a dragon. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by CyberEars, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording, and the next show will probably be on Sunday, April 24th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. You can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or from our website at DDOcast.com with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we are going to bring back DDO debates. It's been a little bit of time, probably almost 2 months, I think, since I've been out for about a month, a little more than a month, and just kind of getting back into it. So we'll jump right into the contestants for today. From the Halfling Commandos on Sarlona, and he is the king blogger over at DDO Gamer with what's your viewership now, like 3 people, Jeff?
Sometimes it gets as high as 3. On good days, yeah. It's pretty awesome, huh?
Yeah. Wide variety of topics, some of which we'll talk about later. Plus, you've got how many other people are blogging over there these days?
Within the last month or 6, probably 3 or 4 regulars, I guess, within the last 6 weeks.
Okay, cool. Rejoining us from the Lava Divers on Khyber, Asheras.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And from the Order of Beholders on Khyber, switching guilds, is Antha returning as well.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we're going to get into our debate, just to give our listeners kind of the rundown of how it works. Each guest will be given the opportunity to give an opening argument in a rotating order, and we want arguments to be creative, passionate, amusing, and factual, but they should not be mean. Counterpoints are encouraged, and interruptions are allowed at my discretion. Points will be arbitrarily awarded at my discretion, and they have no meaning whatsoever, and the winner at the end gets nothing if there is a winner. So with that, we got some topics related to the 10th anniversary party and kind of this general time frame, some current events topics as you might think of them. And the first one that we're going to start with is Turbine doing enough to combat lag? And we're going to start with Jeff.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go with yes, sort of. No, wait. Sorry, wrong answer. The right answer is we have no way to know. So, we're getting a lot of updates from Cordovan. He's way out front on this issue. But they're not very transparent about these things. They're still not. Normally that's probably appropriate, but this is kind of an unusual situation. So, I'd like to see them amp up the effort to inform the public about who's involved and, how hard they're working on it. It makes it so hard to play. It would be like, I think more public transparency is appropriate so that we can see if they're working hard enough on it or not. That's my opinion.
Ash?
Well, based on the results, I have to go with a resounding no. Also, based on customer satisfaction, I'd have to go with a resounding no. They may be working 24/7 on this, have everyone on it, but if customers are leaving or if people aren't playing because of the lag, then it isn't enough. They need to do more. And I know I've reduced my playtime significantly due to lag. We still can't run raids with 10 to 12 people, then it's not enough. And that's a fact. We try every week, and we can typically complete them, but it's no fun. I agree with the communication being lacking as well, but I'd like to see more there, and communication would help. But at the end of the day, it's been a month now. They need to figure it out.
Antha?
I'm going to say no as well. Based off what Jeff said, I completely agree. They're not transparent about anything, so we don't really know what's going on. Their last update was pretty vague. But if we got a short man raids with 4 people, something's definitely wrong. I solo for the most part, so I don't really see too much lag. But I've been raiding this past weekend, and it's been pretty bad.
So what do we want to see as players? What do we want to see Turbine doing?
We want to see the lag fixed, I think, first and foremost. But if they can't get that done, then the communication becomes key. Because I think people will wait, and people will give them time, and people will be understanding as long as they have that information. But like Geoff said, there's not enough transparency.
I think a weekly developer diary would be a great idea for this. So, but that's just my opinion. But I know Cordovan talks about it on most Wednesdays. Nobody's trying to hide it. I mean, nobody's trying to deny it. It would just be nice if we had a better view into what they're doing about it.
Do you think Cordovan's responses have been satisfactory or enough? Not him specifically, but the responses we're getting from him from Turbine are they enough? Are they transparent enough?
Well, I think we're all telling you no. I mean, Cordovan is doing a good job of being out in front of it. He's spending a lot of his time and effort on this one issue. I don't see any issues with Cordovan on this. I think in general, we want to hear from more than just Jerry. We want to hear from the people who are working on it. What things can we do? How are there things that we're playing that we can play different? This is just my feel about it, but Jerry is a great guy, but he's the community manager. Where are the developers who are trying to fight this problem, and what are they doing?
Well, the other issue I've got is they seem to be doing a lot of testing in live production environments. They'll make these changes on, say, a Tuesday on 2 of the servers, see how that goes, and if it works, they'll apply that to everything on Friday. Where's Lamania in this? Why can't they be doing testing nonstop, on a separate server, trying to figure out what's going on, and let the public know, hey, we're doing testing on Lamania, testing some stuff out. Lots of people would get on there. Everyone wants to see lag resolved. They would all work hard and put in effort to help with that.
Well, now see, I'm going to take Turbine side on that one because you just can't simulate real load. You just can't. You need real load to simulate real load.
That's fair.
I was going to say that. I'm going to say you're never going to see the lag fixed because everyone's got problems with either their ISBN or I think most people are actually on dated computers. But I'd like to see the raids runnable. I think we all would.
It's tough because lag was my biggest issue with 2015. When we were doing the year-end show, I mentioned that lag was my biggest concern, and that was mainly related to things like Defiler of the Just or Temple of the Deathworm, where you would have just these horrible lag locks that would cause you to fail the raid. So I've always had a concern with lag to some degree, but that was lag that was understandable, and it was only in certain situations. And yeah, I agree with you. Lag will never be fixed, in quotes, but this lag is crippling, and this is far beyond what we've experienced in the past. We at least need to get back to where it was pre-data center move, which wasn't great.
Would you, just for the sake of argument, do you really consider the lag that we had before in some of the raids to be understandable? I mean, they're designing the quests, the raids. There's been an acknowledgement that having more than 9 or so players in a party is challenging for the servers and the game to run. So shouldn't they be kind of aware of that when they're designing these dungeons or these raids?
I don't know how to answer that. Yes, ultimately Turbine is responsible for all of this, including the decision to move to cheaper downgraded servers. So, yes, they wear all of this. Having said that, the game was coded 12 years ago, and they're trying to use it, they're trying to run it on more of a modern infrastructure. I think it's essentially inevitable that they're going to run into some conflicts with that.
Yeah. I don't know that there's evidence that they downgraded to cheap or inexpensive hardware. I've heard that said, but I haven't seen where that's been actually documented as the case. But yeah, Moore's Law should be applying here. The game was built 10 years ago. Processing power doubles every 2 years. Current gear should be able to run this a lot faster. If they were having trouble with 12-player groups 10 years ago, they shouldn't be having trouble on current gear. Now, if it was written 10 years ago, who knows what architecture was being used and if that's compatible with current hardware. I mean, it could be they're on really good hardware, but really good hardware just isn't compatible with what they wrote.
Well, I'm going to doubt they're on hardware at all. I'm guessing they're leasing capacity from, cloud servers. They have no idea what hardware they're on. And it's not relevant, right? They're just leasing capacity, CPU capacity, bandwidth, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't directly tie to hardware. That's the thing that is modern. And that's the thing that the code written 12 years ago is probably not optimized to take advantage of, and in some cases, probably doesn't coexist with it very well. The whole virtual environment world.
They have mentioned that they've moved to more modern servers, and that there has been some. They changed operating system too on the servers, I guess. Sev mentioned that this week, so they've had to make some optimization changes to accommodate that. I'm going to wrap this one up. Anything else anyone wants to say about lag before we go to the next question?
It sure sucks. Nobody likes it. Yeah. That's for sure.
A lot of good points, but nobody gets any points because no one wins when we're talking about lag.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we're going to go to the next question. Was the anniversary dungeon worth running? We're going to start with Ash.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it had some cute things to it. It was unique. It was different than a lot of other things. I didn't mind that they reused a map we'd already seen before. That was fine. The first run was fun to kind of figure things out, and I enjoyed it. The XP is solid on first runs, so it's good to run it at least once on every character and get that first time XP. The quest is fast with an organized group. We kind of figured out how to run it in about 3 to 4 minutes. And there's a couple items that are worth getting. The boots and the ooze beater, for example. Much like the last event, it had a low, moderate grind level, which I'm fine with. I actually kind of prefer that in my events, so it doesn't completely overtake whatever else I'm doing. And it especially worked out well, given that the lag crippled the game from 1 week after it came out for the entire time it was up.
Antha?
Yes, it was definitely worth running. The first time XP was great. I think if you're a fan of DDO, which obviously you are if you're playing right, it was awesome to see all the old characters again and just see how they combined it with the Party Crasher quest. I liked they reused that. The items I thought were okay. I liked the ooze beater a lot. Great for glamoring, if anything. The other items, they were okay. I think I got the gloves for my swashbuckler at 20. But it was good. I would like to see a better drop rate, but maybe that's because I was soloing. My best solo time was like 10 minutes.
Geoff?
I think it was good if you had low-level characters to kit out, a couple of them. I think it was good if you need broccoli bashers for oozes, and I guess if you're going to be running Creeping Death, you do. Short of that, I think the time to reward ratio was on the wrong side. So I enjoyed the game or the run, but by the time I made 2 broccoli bashers and 2 level 10 things, I'd had enough. I was done.
How much gear did you guys make out of it?
2 broccoli bashers and 2 level 10 things.
I made 2 sets of the boots and 2 broccoli bashers.
I made the flask, the broccoli beater, and the gloves. So 3 items. I was about done after that.
Y'all made more than me. I think I made some cookies.
I don't know. Maybe is it that my tolerance has changed or the nature of the quest is different? But I mean, when Crystal Cove came out, I kitted all my characters. I mean, everybody. So was it just I was more tolerant of the grind then, or did it feel less grindy, or was the ratio to reward balance different?
I think the ratio to reward balance was different.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, plus there was the tiers in Crystal Cove too, so you were constantly upgrading things and getting things, and almost every run you could get something. But I think, and the gear was a lot better too. We only had 1 or 2 items. I mean, we each all said stuff, and we didn't even. No one mentioned the armors. No one mentioned over half the items they had.
Anyone else? Closing thoughts?
I'd like to see it return. It was fun. Maybe up the reward a little bit.
What about the flavor of the dungeon and how it was kind of tongue-in-cheek and kind of fourth wall breaking? What did you guys think about that?
That's cool. I did that kind of thing as a dungeon master now and then too.
Yeah, well, given that it was a 10th anniversary event too, I thought it was nice. That was fine.
I like the effort they went through in the main room to include references to so many things from the past. I really enjoyed that.
I really enjoyed that too. I think, like I said, it was 10th anniversary, so it was expected.
All right. Everyone gets a point. Everyone wins. Everyone had fun and got some stuff out of it. So go with that. Our third question: are the proposed Kensai changes enough? And we're going to start with Antha.
Ooh, well, I don't really play fighters, so I'm gonna say I don't know. I've looked at it. I've looked over it. I think it's interesting. I'm in a fighter life on one of my characters I do a static group with, and I'm in not stalwart defender. What's that other one?
Vanguard.
I'm in Vanguard right now, and I really like that. I tried Kensai, kind of got bored with it, so I'm excited for the changes. I definitely want to try to make a wizard Kensai build and definitely a monk splash. So we'll see how it pans out, I guess, when it hits live.
Geoff?
Well, I'm of two minds about this because I play a lot of fighters. I have a two-handed maul user that's into the Kensai tree now, and she's going to like this a lot because she's already given in to the heavy armor and she's already given in to the building up PRR, and the changes here are going to be benefiting her a lot. The downside for me is that I've always wanted to build a true sword saint, just a cloth-wearing, two-handed sworder who's part monk, mostly fighter, and you just can't. It's not. These changes are actually moving further away from that. I've never been able to pull it off, and it's just now that PRR is so important, I'm never going to. I just don't see how you can be a fighter without heavy armor anymore.
Ash? Uh-oh. Did you mute yourself?
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, it's not enough. It's better, but not quite enough. The original tree, I thought, actually was too monk focused. Not that I don't like the idea of the sword saint and the monk fighter splash, but when you only have one DPS tree for this class, tailoring it to one build, the monk fighter build, is too specialized. If they had another DPS tree, then the Kensai could be more free to be like that PNP version of the Kensai, the robes only quasi-monk / mystic with their focus weapon. But this being the only DPS tree, you just can't do it. And also it being the only DPS tree, that was a limiting factor in it being enough balance for the class on its own. Because this isn't just a Kensai pass, this is supposed to be a fighter class pass. And so I'm not just looking at it from the Kensai perspective, but also from the perspective of the entire class.
They actually said that they're doing as much of a fighter pass, or is it more that they're updating Kensai? I guess they did kind of say that they want to make fighter more competitive.
They did, but they didn't say this set of changes was intended to accomplish that. They said this set of changes was about the Kensai tree. And they also acknowledged the same fact that, this is the DPS tree. And that's why they felt they needed to pull it further away from the monk stuff. So,
the problem
at the same time.
The problem I have is that they said in the beginning that the Bard was kind of the baseline and for DPS, and things were going to be better or worse than that based on how much utility they had off of the Bard. And so something like a fighter, like a ranger or a barb, that has less utility than a bard or a pally should have more DPS. And we see that with the barb and the ranger, especially in the recent ranger pass. But I just don't see where the fighter is getting up there. And they don't have the self-healing that the bard or the pally or even the ranger has. So they need to have something else. And the ranger has the Deepwood Sniper tree, which gives a lot of DPS on its own. Plus they have the Tempest tree. And when you combine those two together, there's just no way the Kensai is really going to be on that same level. So they need something else.
I don't think they're intended to be top shelf DPS. I think they're supposed to be more balanced of offense and defense. And I think this move, the combination of this plus the feats that they added 2 updates ago, I think allow that. I think you can have a pretty good two-handed fighter with pretty good defense and pretty good and pretty good DPS at the same time.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a fun class to play, and I'm going to be excited to play it. But when you can, the problem is the stalwart tree is very similar to Sacred Defender, to the point that there's not a lot of differentiation in the defensive ability, but then you add in the spell ability and the LOH ability of the Pally, and their defensive ability is stronger. And I agree with you that the fighter might not be pure DPS. Maybe it's tactics, but they really didn't do a lot in the tactics area either to help boost the fighter and give them that differentiating factor. There's lots of things they could do to make the fighter more appealing, be it better damage mitigation through crowd control or through PRR or other options like that. And I'd love to see them do something like that. I don't want to see them put self-healing in. I've heard people talking about self-healing. The Barbs have it. The Pallies have it. The Rangers have it. Everyone's got it. Where's the fighter's self-healing ability? I'm not interested in that. I'd rather see them do something else with mitigation or other forms of defense rather than self-healing. But I still feel like there's something missing.
Well, but I think you're debating the wrong point. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you that it's hard to make the fighter an appealing class. It is. I just don't think these changes are supposed to do that. I think these changes are just supposed to be about the Kenzai tree, and I think that if you focus from that point of view, they're a good set of changes. Do they make do they balance the fighter against everything else? No, but I don't think that's the intent.
Well, it's a balance pass, so I think that is the intent, and that's why I said it's not enough.
Do you think that they need more tactics help?
I think that would be great.
I think it would be great too. I also think you could look at different forms of tactics, not just bumping up the DCs on the existing tactics, but looking at other ways you could create some crowd control. Yeah.
That would be fun. Like the slow that Battle Ragers have, give that to fighters. That'd be cool.
Yeah, something like that. Absolutely.
It could be interesting. Let's see. I'll call it there. I'm going to give the point to Ash, to Asheras. I think, if for no other reason, that I think you were kind of on the side of the devs, since the devs have said that the DPS that they've seen is they want a little more out of it. And I like that you brought up the how it's balancing with Swashbuckler and a lot of your points as well. So our next question: are Thunderhome weapons obsolete? And we're going to start with Geoff.
I'm fast in and fast out on this one. Tier 1 and Tier 2 are not, because of their minimum level changes. They're very useful at those levels still, but Tier 3 has definitely been eclipsed by Legendary Green Steel. And if, who's going to go grind out 30 Phlogistons when you've got Legendary Green Steel to log out, to grind out instead? So yes, Tier 3, very obsolete. Tier 1 and 2, no, they're just fine.
Asheras?
I'm going to say no, they're not obsolete, but we're also probably going to agree with Geoff in the fact that it's the base weapon, and the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 are the reasons why they're not obsolete. The Tier 3, there's a few options that still work in there. If you've got the weapon, you're going to use it. You're going to find uses for it. But the idea of starting that grind today, that's probably a non-starter. I'd say the Tier 2 weapon is a sweet spot, especially with the Dragon's Edge. That's still a really nice feature. And the fact that they break DR very easily because they have the metalline property and the slot. The biggest weakness of the green steel is it's very tough to get green steel to break DR.
Antha?
I gotta agree with Ash and Geoff here. The base T1 and T2 options are still good. Plus, we only have two quests that are actually legendary. So until we start seeing some more legendary content, no, I don't think they're obsolete.
So what would you still build for Tier 3?
I just recently got my 30th Phlogiston. I would not have started the grind on this, but I just finished one, and it was on my fighter. And she took Draconic Invigoration because she lives and dies by that haste boost, and now she's got them forever. They never go away, which is wonderful.
Yeah, the Draconic Invigoration is a nice one. That's the one that regenerates the action boosts, along with songs and a couple other things, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But that's a nice one. I can't recall what it's called, but the fire damage one, too, is still... It still does a strong amount of damage when you look at the DPS that it's offering. And the force damage... the force damage on Mortal Fear is always still nice. I mean, it's... What is it? 8 to 64 on every swing. So... And very few mobs can resist that.
Yeah, but Mortal Fear itself it's not famous for its force damage, and the thing that made it great is dead.
Well, it's dead in 3 raids and 2 quests, but yes. Most of which you can't run because of lag.
Yeah, that's true.
Fair point. Do you think Mortal Fear is obsolete?
Yes.
The problem with Mortal Fear is it takes your weapon to level 28, which the green steel is level 26. So now it's got a higher ML than the green steel item, and it's useful in less content. But again, that's not a ton of content. If you've got one, you're still going to be using it quite regularly, but I don't think anyone's really thinking about making one anymore.
Okay. Good discussion. Oh boy. Since everyone kind of picked the same basic idea that Tier 1 and Tier 2 are still reasonable and Tier 3 is obsolete because of green steel, everyone gets a point. Alright, so we're going to move into our 5th question. Where should DDO go next? This is a nice time to put this in because we just had a year-long kind of campaign of sorts with the Devils of Shirath invading Eberron again. So what campaign would you like to see, or a storyline continued, maybe a module? Just kind of, where would you like to see DDO go next, now that we're done with the Devils? Let's start with Asheras.
Well, first off, I think DDO should stay in Eberron and Forgotten Realms. Branching out into a new campaign setting, I don't think that's needed at this point. That takes a lot of resources. I'd rather see be put into pure content. There's plenty still to explore in both areas. Many planes could be visited if you wanted a change of scenery within those 2 settings. The destruction of the Book of Infinite Planes, for example, might open a few rifts that our adventurers might need to go plane traveling to fix. That would just be one idea. I've heard mention of Anarok, the desert in Forgotten Realms, being a new adventure area. I'd be all for that. We're talking new content, so that probably gets away from bringing in classic modules. But I'm a big fan of the Haunted Halls of Evening Star and Temple of Elemental Evil. I'd love to see a classic module also brought in. Maybe the Slavers series or something like that.
We do know we're getting one around Halloween. Antha, what would you like to see DDO go next?
Well, definitely more content in Eberron, but I'm gonna go for a Ravenloft. I love that module in pen and paper. That's the one that actually killed me. My DM was pretty nasty with that, but I really want to see that.
Geoff?
Well, I've got 2 answers to this, and the first one is it doesn't matter if they don't fix the lag. And I understand that content developers are not the same as the kind of system developers that are working on the lag, but it doesn't matter if they don't fix the lag. Second, once you get past that, I don't really care. I just want a lot of new content. I mean, the rest of 2016 has got to be the year of the content. Last year was the year of the system pass, and yay for that, but we need more dungeons and more quests. The anniversary challenge was nice, but it wasn't even really a quest. So they've got to kick it out. They've got to throw us a lot of new quests. And I don't really care where they're set. Just make them fun and make them be a bunch of them. And okay, assuming the lag is fixed, then do that.
Do you want like a storyline, or do you want a bunch of standalones?
It's hard for me to voice a preference right now. I mean, I like the idea. I like the way they put together a story that took all year to unfold and then finished with the last quest of the year, or the last update of the year. That was nice. But I'm just desperate for new content. And most importantly, I want it to feel new. To contain some legitimately new monsters and some legitimately new tiles and some legitimately new textures. I want new. Silence falls.
I'd agree with what Geoff's saying. I think more content is better at this point. We're talking here in April, and besides the anniversary event, we really haven't seen a lot this year yet. And I agree as well about the lag. By the way, the lag's got to be fixed. Otherwise, it's pointless to have the conversation. But assuming we are having the conversation of new content, I want challenge in the dungeons themselves. The idea of the storyline is nice, but I want the dungeons themselves to be a challenge, be it new puzzles or new ways we can do the encounters, things like that, to make the content itself fun. Because when I'm running a dungeon, especially repeatedly, that's what really matters most. The story is really interesting only for the first run or two. After that, it's all about how the dungeon plays and the loot.
Antha, what are your thoughts on the storyline? How important is the storyline for your play?
Well, like Ash said, the storyline's only important for the first few runs. I like it. It's always fun for the ooh and ah factor, but more loot, new quests, new monsters.
All right. I'm going to say that everybody wins because new content is awesome. Let's be honest. These questions are great topics to talk about. These ones so far they're kind of hard to really debate and go into too much. But I got a great one here. We're going to close with this question, a great debate question. I want to hear why yours is better than everyone else's. The final question is, what is the most difficult puzzle in DDO? We're going to start with Antha.
I'm going to go with the Enter the Kobold puzzle. No matter how many times I run that, if I'm not using the wiki, I'm just bouncing all over the place. And to this day, I still don't really understand that.
Geoff?
I'm definitely not going with that one because once you learn the trick to it, it's easy. I'm going with Fred's room in the Sane Asylum. It's not the biggest puzzle in the game, but it's really compact and really three-dimensional, and moving one piece moves more than one thing, and you really have to solve two puzzles at the same time. It just kills me. Even when I break out well, it's not a solver, but on the wiki there's diagrams on how to solve it. I still can't figure it out. It's so hard. I wish I could just move like a knight and solve it like I can with Enter the Kobold. But no, I have to instead enlist the aid of my gamer girl because she can unsnarl it, and I just cannot. It is completely beyond me. So Fred's room in the Sane Asylum.
Asheras?
I'm going with the 3D puzzle in Ghost of a Chance where you have to save Worley. I know it's technically an optional puzzle. You can complete the quest without it, but that thing is a bear. I've never been able to solve it without looking at the wiki, and I've been able to solve the one in Fred's room. It's tough, but I don't think it's as tough as the one in Ghost of a Chance.
I think the one in Ghost of a Chance is bigger, but it's not particularly difficult. It's just really large. So the scale of it, I guess, is a form of difficulty all by itself. But how can it match with trying to solve two puzzles at once when the pieces are interlocking and moving one screws up the other? Just my opinion. But
I
there
know
you
I'll
go.
lose this battle, but Sane Asylum's easy. It's only one of two options you're going to get. So once you learn them, I mean, hey, it's just which one you get.
Oh, so once you've memorized the puzzle, then you can solve it. That's the only way to beat it is to memorize the puzzle.
Well,
I think that's proof it's a really difficult puzzle.
That's how we solve all the puzzles, though. I mean, the quest, you don't have a ghost of a chance of solving the puzzle in Ghost of a Chance. That's probably why the quest was actually named that. Come on, I get a point for that.
Maybe. Anyone else? I was just leaving the floor open.
You're not going to find anything harder. So we've certainly listed the hardest puzzles. I think, trying to think if we've missed anything that was hard. I know we have to do a puzzle in balloon format in Insane. No, that's not even. No, these are the hardest
not
puzzles.
Really a puzzle.
And Fred's is the hardest of them all.
Monastery, if you're not using the solver.
So let's see. I'm going to run down these. Enter the Kobold. I think they did point out that it's a fairly simple trick once you figure it out to move like a knight. So 2 up and 1 over, based on which crystal you hit.
Oh, that's the trick?
Yeah.
Shoot.
That's it. Move like a knight.
So if you whatever crystal you touch, because if you're in the center, right, there's 8 crystals around you. Whichever way you're facing when you're looking at 2 crystals on either side, you will move 2 forward in that direction, and then if you pick the one on the left, you move 1 to the left, or the one on the right, you move 1 to the right. So once you figure out that you're moving like a knight, it gets pretty easy. Geoff, Fred's room is, it's just one of 2 puzzles, and they don't overlap that much, and there's multiple ways to solve it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is that for you, it's not that difficult.
I'm just talking this out. Ash picked a big giant puzzle in scope, but failed to mention the fact that if you misstep it, then you fail. It kills him right off the bat. So you didn't bring that one in there.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think in this case I got to give it to Geoff. And no one mentioned that in Jeff's puzzle you can just keep trying it. There's no fail mechanism. Someone asked what my choice would have been. I would actually pick Monastery of the Scorpion. Mostly because it changes all the time. You're not generally going to get the same combination. And there's monsters running across it while you're trying to solve it, and someone's throwing a dancing ball on it the whole time. So it can be, you don't have to just figure out the puzzle, you have to figure it out quickly in order to actually get the XP for it and get it solved because of how much stuff's running around on it. That would have been.
I don't know. That's kind of cheating though from the way you asked the question. I mean, but you're right. There's no doubt that having monsters involved makes it more interesting. Same with the floor puzzles in that themselves become monsters, but. Nonetheless,
it's just some of the things that go into. I mean, it's still a tough puzzle because
it's a very tough puzzle. I agree.
Yeah, it changes so much.
Yeah.
That's the big thing is it changes. It's not consistent. All the puzzles you guys pick, I think, are all fairly consistent.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing about Monastery is that if you're not solving it fast enough, some of the dots become dead as they're running around.
That's based on how much damage you do to the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can avoid
not a time
that
factor, but
right.
But yeah, it can be a bit of.
Good luck with that in a pug.
Actually, I don't usually seem to find that a problem. Most people kind of understand that you mostly leave them alone, but.
That or you just kill him if you don't want the extra chest.
Yeah, I think the last time someone broke the thing, it was me because I wasn't really paying attention, and he popped up right in front of me, and I just shot him with a repeater and hit him up pretty quick. So.
But that brings up another point: is that even in the monastery, the puzzle is optional.
It's true.
You can win the quest without having done it.
You can do that with the Sane Asylum too, can't you?
I don't know. I'm looking it up right now. I never have.
Yeah, you can. That's an optional way.
Yeah, I don't think you have to do it.
That's actually like the shortcut way. If you go straight, it's the longer route. You got to fight the beholders, I believe.
Yeah. In any case, there you go. There's some difficult puzzles. You could also give an honorable mention to the Reaver's Fate puzzle. Once you learn it, it's not so hard, but it changes all the time. And used to give people a lot of trouble back in the day. I'm trying to think if there's other good puzzles out there.
I like that puzzle.
Yeah, it was a good puzzle. I used to always give people a hard time for using a solver. But then again, back in the day, probably every 1 out of every 4 times, someone would mess up using the solver and get really confused.
Say it's definitely one of their more unique puzzles in the game.
And the roof puzzle in what is it, Rackham's Trial Prove Your Worth. That it's not super. It's short, but it's just a weird mental flip to figure out how to solve it, where you're trying to get crossbows to fire in the right order up on the ceiling.
The optional one in Dream Conspiracy is also a good one. That's another one where the top mirrors the bottom. So that can be fun to do.
Oh, right. That is a good one.
We're going to get into game news. Not a whole lot of news, but we'll go through what we got. There was a game update this week to address several things, one of which was there's some back-end issues, some of which were operating system related, with the data center moves. Several talked about it on the weekly Wednesday live stream this week for the first couple minutes. I got mostly gibberish out of it because I'm not a network hardware guy, so I don't know if any of you kind of understood it and can explain it in more layman's terms. Or if anyone listened to it.
I only listened one time and not very carefully, but I understand virtualization. So they're moving to a virtualized environment, and that caused them unexpected problems with their 12-year-old C code. I think, right? Isn't it's optimized for being on Windows? I don't. I'm not. I shouldn't jump in with technical stuff on something that I'm not 100% technical. I just know what he said, and that's
Right.
what he said. Right.
Yeah, I think the challenge of virtualization is that it's just a newer thing, and not everyone knows how to design for it because it is different than running on base hardware. And probably 80-90% of system designers these days know how to design a system that will perform correctly with a base hardware solution. The virtualization solutions, there's a lot of folks who are encountering it for the first time, which I think the folks at Turbine were too. And that creates risk, the opportunity to make mistakes or just not understand everything. And now, luckily, the nice thing about the virtualization solution is that you can add more resources to it a lot easier than you can a hardware solution. So hopefully they'll figure it out.
Well, and it's not supposed to matter because we're supposed to be laying on top of a virtual machine that does everything Windows used to do. So you're not even supposed to have scope to what the real operating system is, know or care. But then you're limited by what things the virtual machine that you're using supports. So, and video game work, especially earlier this century, was into very OS specific stuff, right? DX5. I don't remember even the various DXs they were in, but it's very, very OS specific. And maybe the virtual machines just aren't supporting every single thing that. Maybe they're not supporting stuff that was specific to DX3 or whatever back in 2006.
Maybe.
DX9, what were we at? DX8, DX9? I forget.
It's very possible. I know that where I work, we migrated one of our older applications that was built in 2004 to a virtual environment, and it moved it from Windows 2003 to Windows 2012, I think. And just the version of .NET was different. .NET 1.1 to .NET 4.5, it didn't work the same. And there was a lot of little code changes that need to happen to optimize it and to get things to function correctly. They could be experiencing the same sort of issues.
I'm sure they are. I think a game would be the hardest thing to port like that.
I'll take your word for it. What I got out of it was there were some challenges with how old the game was and going to newer modern servers, and it was probably going to be an ongoing process for a while. Hopefully it won't impact gameplay for too much longer, and we'll still get some good content coming out this year. They also did some work on some barb enhancements that were causing stacking issues. We've seen some of that stacking issue stuff before. There were some comments on, so they started a new thread for performance. The one that they had was getting long, and they wanted to change tweak a little bit of the stuff they were looking for players' feedback on. The statement was that they're continuing to work on improvements. For example, this afternoon they identified an improvement they will be making to their monitoring tools to lessen their impact on game performance, and will be working to bring that out to the game worlds in the relatively near future. They also say that they no longer need traceroute information from players, although they will let you know if it's helpful to provide that in the future. There was also a change that kind of snuck in that surprised some people. Players can now click on the green speaker in the party UI to toggle on and off the individual party member volume sliders. Volume sliders also no longer display on you in the UI. Also, you can no longer existentially turn up your hireling sliders in the hope they begin talking to you. Jeff, did you get any hirelings to talk to you?
Still not. I keep trying. They never did.
Regarding the Kensai changes, there were some replies from several in. One design consideration is that the Kensai is the only DPS tree for fighter. Because of this, they definitely moved away from monk-specific abilities by making them either more generic or giving a multi-select option for fighters in heavy armor. The power boost and capstone, this would be that they're applying to all stats, are meant to represent the Kensai's philosophy and balance in all things. From a design perspective, they support the fighter's place as a classic and support all types of fighting builds. From a balance perspective, they give fighters a needed boost to saving throws. Opportunity attack. The chance to give extra charges as you attack happens even when the ability is not active. It's specifically designed as an ability that boosts DPS for players who can actively and efficiently maintain the buff and use the attacks as it becomes available. They will do an action point cost pass. They hadn't yet done that for Kensai. They want fighters to be good, whether people multi-class or go pure. they are probably going to look at one cut to see whether it is too weak for the Core 18. That's one thing he mentioned in the live stream as well. Bow and throwing weapons will use the base bonuses in the specialization line. The missing enhancement is still in discussion, but the intent is that its purpose would be survivability. It is unlikely they will make weapon-specific buffs because it will just force players into specific weapons for their favorite buff. And they haven't done DPS tests. Well, they have now. They did some DPS tests and found that the DPS was a little bit lower than what they were going for with their masks. They'll probably do some more tweaks. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but just generally, what are you guys' thoughts on Kensei? Are you excited about the changes? Looking forward to using them? What's maybe your favorite thing out of the trees?
I'm very excited about it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah,
No,
I'm
you
very
first.
okay. I'm very excited about it. I think that there's a lot of great stuff in here. I like that they're changing the AP costs. One of the things I found about this tree was that it was very expensive. Lots of 2 AP point cost things that didn't seem to make sense. I like that they're getting rid of or reducing a lot of the feat requirements in the primary damage tree in there, the one that gives the pluses to hit and damage, because it used to be that to get the 4th tier you had to be all the way up in, I think, greater weapon focus or something, which required level 8 fighter, and they're reducing that significantly. So that's a benefit. I like the adding of the extra power all throughout it. The power surge is going to be really fun to look at and try and figure out how you can make the best use of that.
Well, I'm glad
excited.
you went first because I was going to say just exactly those things. 1 point to Ash.
Antha, did you have something you want to say about it?
I was gonna say I'm definitely excited to try it out. I want to see how it works with the multi-classing, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, my fighter's 12 fighter, 6 ranger, 2 monk, and switches back and forth between melee and ranged at times. So I like that it's going to give a lot of bonus to both of those options. And there's something like plus 20 to melee and range power in the tier 5 tree, which
That's really nice.
yeah, I'm
That's really nice.
stoked about that.
Yep.
20%
Yeah.
damage bonus.
I think one thing I've heard, there was some confusion with where the critical, I think it was critical multiplier, whether it's in the level 6 or the level 12 core. That's definitely supposed to be in the level 12 core, is my understanding. I think the original post had it in the level 6 core, but I believe that was an error.
Level 12 would be power surge. Maybe it's supposed to be in level 9 or something. I don't know. We'll find out. The one thing that it was hard to wrap my head around, just because it was the text they gave us was more in a this is what we're changing format. So it's trying to figure out which bonuses are going to apply to everything, like any weapon that you're holding, or does it have to be in your focus group? That was kind of the one thing that was a little unclear for me.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to see it. I'm going to have to see it all. You know, I mean, I have it. The character I have that's most excited about all this is a pure class fighter, and I think I'm just going to have to redo her from scratch to take advantage of all the changes that have happened in the last 2 updates and how they work, alongside each other. I don't even know, and I'm looking forward to that. I like building characters. That's fun. So yay.
How do you guys feel about the enhancements that are like an active attack? Because I kind of like the ones that are in this tree, although I tend to not like those in a lot of the other trees.
I think it can be overused. I tend to like to not have to deal with that, if for no other reason than once you get into like some epic destinies, they have a lot of attacks and stuff that are vying for space on my hotbar already.
Right.
So I don't really like necessarily having a lot of those active attacks. I think for the but it also kind of it depends on what kind of class you're on too. I kind of like how it works with the monk, but one of the things I like about my barbarian is he's a fairly passive character in his attacks. You know, it's just use the normal attack button and some cleaves. My fighter is, you have to start to get a little more active with him because you're throwing in tactics feats. Plus, this now is kind of something that's, I don't know. I don't really like to manage that too much. I like to avoid it as much as possible, I guess.
I don't like them for two reasons. And the number one, and the most important one, is definitely hotbar real estate. But the second is, it turns you into a surge guy. You're better sometimes than others. And that's cool, but I'd rather just be good all the time and have my hotbar space back.
I'd say it really depends on the class, but it clutters up the hotbar.
I like that with Barbarian has some stuff that's on such and such hit or whatever, you get some bonuses. And I like it when it's just part of your normal attack chain. I prefer it when it's part of your normal attack chain as opposed to, like Master's Blitz is a good example of this. You hit it, and then as you are able to continue hitting more things, it boosts up. But you don't have to keep clicking it. You click it once and it activates, and you can go from there. So,
yeah, Divine Crusader has that one that adds the melee power that slowly erodes over time, which is similar, which I like as well.
Yeah, I like Fire and Forget as opposed to being overly active. I think there's enough things in the game that are vying for your attention and real estate space on your hotbar is always a concern. But I don't know, I usually figure that if on most of my characters, right, like my first 5 hotbars are things that I'm going to use a lot, and if it's something that I'm going to use a lot and I have more than 5 things there, then I start to feel like I have too many things to push. So that's kind of my limit. New stuff. There was a comment from Cordovan on some of the new stuff. They are currently working on Update 31 and in the process of getting its name confirmed. It'll be several free quests, largely independent from each other. There'll also be the Fighter Kensai and several other things that are being worked on and may or may not get into the update depending on how things progress in development. They're working on getting things ready for Lemania, and there's no current ETA. The timing is expected to be similar to our past cadence, which I think puts an update in June-ish. See, we're mid-April now. If it hits Lemania kind of at the end of the month, I'll probably be on Lemania for 3 weeks or so, and then hit live, so end of May, early June. Probably be my guess.
I guess this is our producer letter, huh?
I don't think so. We are kind of due for a producer letter, though, because the last one was mid-January, I think,
and was really inadequate. Sorry,
it got us through where we are now. It hasn't gone much farther than that. Yeah, it's about time for a producer letter to get us to kind of give us the. I would say we should probably get some insight through the next 2 updates at least, maybe if not kind of. How about the rest of the year?
How about the rest of the year? Come on.
I'm okay with there being more producers' letters that are, tighter, maybe quarterly or something like that. That's fine, but they've got to happen. And I thought that's what Severlin said he was doing in January was more timely letters that are going to have more details and have more accountability towards. The annual thing's tougher for them to predict, and I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with him saying that's what they're going to do and then not coming through on it.
I have a feeling the whole lag server move kind of ate up some of his time. Because I asked Jerry when he was hosting the show too, what all the lag stuff is doing to the development process, and the answer he gave was basically it's kind of unknown at this point, but probably impacting it a little, not a lot, but impacting it a little bit. And I think, let's say the producer's letter. Here's my stance on it. I like getting the producer's letter, but if the difference of getting a producer's letter is getting one less quest, I'd rather have the quest.
Oh, come on.
What?
He's not. Come on. It takes an hour to write up a good producer's letter.
Fair.
and maybe 2 hours to pass it around and have various people vet it.
Fair.
Come on.
That's fair.
He's the producer. Produce a letter.
There's also this interesting question of how far out should it go, and I think definitely should go past the update that we're already starting the information on, and should get at least 2 updates and maybe a little information about what they're thinking about for the third. Would kind of be which would give it that would be the rest of the year right now.
Yes, it would. Then we're in agreement. Yay!
Yeah, agreement on a show. Oh my gosh. One thing we wanted to make sure everyone is aware of: the anniversary event ends officially today. Practically, it will end sometime tomorrow morning. Eastern.
And by the way, when it ends, it all the way ends. You know,
Yeah.
the guys that buy your stuff go away, the trade-in people go away. It's all gone, empty space, nothing.
Go spend your stuff. I should see if I have any party favors left. Bonus days this week. It's a buddy weekend, so you get plus 10% for each person in your group for normal questing. This does not work in raids. Store news. We have some sales through April 21st. You can get 25% off of adventure packs or Quest XP elixirs. You can also get a free Bell of Opening. Probably one of the freebies I use more than the other ones.
Yep, good stuff.
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to open a door here and there, although I still have plenty of bells opening. I have not burned through them yet. Let's see, the community news, the DDO Chronicle, 186th iteration. Thunder Monkey created an epic saga spreadsheet. You should look at that. I'm using one that someone made many years ago when they kind of came out with sagas, so I haven't looked at this new one. Amy Lee, 4000, created an excellent blog post looking at the Tresium of Evening Star. That's the little flying cat. Or cat-like. Is it actually a cat? It's feline-like, right?
Looks like a cat.
Yeah, cat with wings. The High Lords of Malkir hosted heroic and legendary Hound of Zorite teaching raids yesterday. And Samius Gurobo is organizing a 12-hour live stream today. It started at the same time that I think that we started, or maybe a little bit before that. But he is celebrating reaching 200 followers on Twitch, which is a great accomplishment for him. Nicely done, sir. The guild for the week, the Unbreakable, is an Arganesson-based guild looking for a handful of skillful players to join them. The guild likes to minimize their time for maximum end rewards and are looking to step up again to embrace elite guild status. Let's see, the comment for the week. If you had to pick between never again getting loot or XP, which would you choose and why? I would probably
what a grim question.
Yeah. I would. I mean, if I had to pick, I would take XP over loot because there's more to be had with character development and ongoing character development with XP. But man, if I couldn't have one of them, I'd probably stop playing.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'd pick another game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fansite news. Let's see. DDOcast got a shout out for our Bard building episode last week, which DDO Players News looked at the Kensai and more with their new show. DDO Gamer is pondering a card-based game, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. The Gnomes went wild with the latest Damsels of DDO episode. Those ladies are a blast to listen to. And the DDO Cocktail Hour continued to talk about the lighter side of DDO in episode 97. It was good to have them back. The Shady Rose continued to party. They did the 10th anniversary party. I think it's kind of funny that they're linking to them. They had a rough go of it. They had to redo it because they got lag locked. It was entertaining to hear some other people deal with lag. But they got through the anniversary party. Grimoire and the Defense Guild are getting ready for a live stream. Mickey's Cubert likes to perch. I think she named her cube Cubert. And Enrique looked at the old and new Three Barrel Cove. Other stuff on the Chronicle. Cordovan and crew went to the Cult of Six on Arganesson in the weekly Wednesday live stream from 2 weeks ago. And Turbine is raising money for the Relay for Life event locally. You can support them there. And they also linked to the Dungeons & Dragons coloring book. It's coming. Although the Players News, I think, said it was only happening in the UK, so not sure if that'll be available in the US.
Just gotta hit up eBay.
Yeah, there you go. Really, if it's available online, it's available in the whole world, right? Isn't that how that works, basically?
Pretty much.
You just gotta pay for shipping. Some videos for this week. The weekly Wednesday live stream for the first 6 or so minutes was a chat with Severlin about the lag and a little bit about the Kensai tree and kind of some of the work that they're doing. The ladies' night were in Veil of Twilight. Axel had shared his thoughts about the Kensai changes. The Shady Rogues did their 10th anniversary event, and the ladies' night also was reincarnating into iconic characters. Let's see, blogs. Jeff, why don't you talk about DDO Gamer and what's going on over there?
Well, I've been working on a card game, and I've been inflicting various thoughts about it on the blog more than anything else. But it's DDO, the card game. Haven't really. There's a lot of things about it that haven't been decided, but it's amazing how much has. So if you're interested in the process of designing a card game, stop by. Of course, we're still talking about DDO, the online game as well. For example, Tuesday night, our guild decided to run Mark of Death, and we posted that we didn't really know how to do it and asked for some tips and didn't really get any. But what we did get was Jerry Snook. He showed up out of the blue on his own, at 9 at night after a full work day. He shows up just to help us get through that quest. So lag defeated us, but it wasn't because, it certainly wasn't lack of turban support. I mean, who does that? Comes out on their own time, just to help us out, try to get through a quest. So, and there's a nice write-up of that over on DDO Gamer as well. So that's what's happening on DDO Gamer this week.
Some other blogs. Mickey's Delirium was talking about some re-gearing process. Even Note had some videos about her pets. She's been cataloging all of her pets and all of their tricks and videos. So if you want to know what pets are out there that you may not have and what kind of tricks they can do, that's a great resource. She also posted about Operation Pink Shroud number 2. And since Jeff, you're here, why don't you give us a rundown? What was Operation Pink and how did it, or Pink Shroud, and how did it go?
Well, Geek Mom. She's been on DDOcast, I think. Yes, Judy?
Yeah, a few times.
So Geek Mom and her husband have been, I guess, Geek Dad, have been sort of introducing their daughter, Pink, to DDO, and she's taken to it very enthusiastically and has recently reached Shroud levels. So, on the other hand, she doesn't, Judy, Geek Mom, doesn't like to pug with Pink. She likes to keep it in kind of a controlled atmosphere with guild members and people she knows, which makes it kind of a challenge when you're trying to put together 12 people for a Shroud run. So she's been communicating around to the various people in the community. Lots of people volunteered to help Pink get through this. The first run was 2 weeks ago. We're at level. We ran it heroic, normal, I think 3 weeks ago. Most of us were level 16 or 17. Last week we ran it again. This time we're on hard. Most of us are still 16 or 17. The end story wasn't as happy the second time as it was the first time. But it's been a good time, and it's so much fun to hear, to just see somebody new and excited play, and to experience some of these things that we've been doing for 10 years through the eyes and voice of somebody who's doing them for the first time again. That's been really great. So actually, what you should probably go over to Geek Mom and read about it, because that's where it is in detail. And I think Bonnie's been posting the videos too. So there's plenty of evidence about Operation Pink Shroud all over the internet.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. And I think it's a great example of how awesome the DDO community is, that several people jumped servers and got flagged for Shroud to help run her through the Shroud for her first time. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Enrique, finishing up our blogs, Enrique was looking at linking monster clans across the various storylines, which is kind of a fun little blog. Samius Gurobo was also, we mentioned, is hit 200 followers, and he's doing 12 hours of live streaming today. So that's exciting. If you are interested in watching, he doesn't just do DDO, but he does do a fair bit of DDO. You can follow him on Twitch. He's kind of making more of a push to really kind of go after doing some business, trying to get a little bit of income and have that be more of his life, I guess you could say. And he's doing a great job of it. He does DDO. He does a game with his son. DDO Cocktail Hour is there as well. He does some other stuff. I think some Magic the Gathering and some other games as well. So you can support him. He's a long-time DDOcast contributor. So he'd always like to push people towards those folks as well. Let's see, DDO Kasplat. We did Chronoscope on Permadeath with 6 people. We chickened out and did hard. Some people didn't want to do Elite, so we did hard, and we kind of waltzed through it. It was a little surprising how easy it was. But next week, I think we're going to start doing some more level 6s, and we're working our way up to Temple of Elemental Evil, which will be coming in the next couple of weeks. General gaming news. Massively Overpowered did a nice little write-up about our sister game, Lotro. They released Pelennor Fields to the Lotro game. So there's kind of they talked a little bit about the technical challenges of how to make a battle that big work in a game like Lotro. So it's kind of fun stuff there. They also had an interesting article about reconsidering the MMO daily quest. So basically what it was is they're talking about do people like having, quote, daily quest? I don't know that DDO has it in the same vein that they're talking about with MMOs. But, I mean, we do have quests that we like to run daily because of some sort of bonus that makes it viable to run daily. And I thought we just kind of go around the table. What are your guys' thoughts on having a daily quest or a daily set of quests that you kind of should run or try to run every day? Do you think that kind of doles out the game a little bit, or is it something you really enjoy?
Well, we were using Von 3 and Two-Toed Tobias as daily quests for a while. So does that count?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is what you're going to get for DDO in that sense.
Well, and you know what? It does kind of dull out the game a little bit because, it doesn't, the amount of time I have to play the game doesn't increase just because there's a daily quest now. So, I'm spending a higher percentage of my total time rerunning the same quest over and over again. So I would argue against it as a long-term thing. It's okay if you've got a specific goal like we did in this case, but normally I don't think you'd want to do it.
I think, daily quests in DDO, things like Spies in the House or WizKick or whatever, you see a lot of people running to get their epic TRs done quickly, are okay in that they allow you to accomplish the goal, which is you want to get through that past life as fast as possible. You're not doing it to necessarily enjoy the content. The content isn't the goal. The TR is the goal. And so in that regard, it's fine. But I do agree that those get boring when they do. I stop doing them and I do other content. So I think as long as you gauge your own level of enjoyment and your goals, they're fine.
I try to steer clear of them. I think it dulls down the game unless you're with a group and you got a goal, either searching an item or doing epic TRs. But it depends on the person.
The nice thing is DDO doesn't really force you into that in any real... It tries to steer you away from running the same thing over and over and over again consecutively on the same day. But it doesn't... So but I wouldn't say that it really promotes the idea of having a daily quest that you should run. It promotes the opposite of not doing the opposite. Last bit of gaming news. There is a new president for Wizards of the Coast. Hasbro announced some new leadership there. DDO Players News had a good chat about this. I don't really have anything to say on it myself other than it's noteworthy for us since DDO is a partnership with... we have to get the license for D&D from Wizards of the Coast. So. Yeah. Lightning Post. There were some comments on our Building Bards episode. Day News wrote in that his most recently reincarnated character is a bard. He went Sun Elf and got rid of the initial cleric level. His plan is to go pure bard, primarily a spell singer with some war chanter stuff for medium armor, proficiency in healing spell power, and then the racial mass death ward buff. I gotta say, a Sun Elf is an interesting choice for a bard. It's not one that I really go out for too much. He also said that it's worth mentioning the new Master of Music feat, which is the legendary feat, I believe, and also the spell Greater Shout. So he liked those. Let's see, other stuff that he mentioned. He liked the epic 3-Barrel Cove Rapier. It's phenomenal crit profile, which helps things, and likes the brilliance. Other fun stuff. He agreed with us that Destiny-wise, bards are very versatile and can work well in almost everything. I think the one that we mentioned was it doesn't work so well in Grandmaster. But then again, if you're not a monk, does anything really work in Grandmaster if you're not a monk?
Not really.
maybe a wisdom-based DC caster a little bit, but let's see. Konstantinos also wrote in. He loves bars, but it feels like you're in a candy store. You taste a bit of everything, then you get sugar poisoning from eating too much. I can't concentrate on one thing because everything is so good. Our survey question for the week is asking for some LFM creation tips. Guys, what are your tips for creating LFMs?
Post the correct quest.
Yeah, that helps. I have a story to the contrary, but it'll have to wait for another day. Sometimes if I'm down to 1 or 2 slots, I'll add that to the, if I'm almost full and we're about ready to go, I'll add that right onto the posting. 1 slot left. I don't know why. I guess I've watched so many commercials over the years, it's been beat into my head that's what I'm supposed to do. And it seems to work.
Yeah, I agree with that. It absolutely does, because people scan it. They don't necessarily highlight over it to see who's in the party first. So you'll get those clicks because everyone wants to join a full party. But I think also posting the difficulty you're going to do in there as well, because, again, people aren't necessarily going to click on it and see what difficulty you selected in the radio selector. So I always put that in my description.
I think always put your expectations in there. If you want people to bring their own heals, tell them that. If you're going to move fast, tell them you're going to move fast. I try to avoid things that are, I'll say, discriminatory, like TRs and vets only. I think that turns people off more than it turns people on.
Haven't seen that for a while, though.
Yeah. It was kind of all the rage for a while, but I don't know. I never really liked doing it. I used to post that we're going to move fast, keep up, just to say that you're going to be moving fast. Whatever your expectations are, if you have some quality of play issues that you want, you might mention that. Specifically, like if you're going to move fast, you want to mention that. But I try to stay away from discriminating. I also try to, the way I wrote this was create a language, but I don't mean like create a completely new language for LFMs that people don't understand, but have consistency in how you post your LFMs. I used to when I'm doing raid LFMs, I'll usually put in when we were running the same raid a few times, I'd put in that we're going to run, say, Mark of Death, and we're going to run it. This is the first run out of 3-ish runs that we're planning. And I think it helps because, particularly since I have a lot of characters, people will recognize the LFM language as me, but maybe not necessarily recognize the character. So I think that can help as well. With that, we're going to close out the show. Geoff, do you want to plug anything here?
Nope. I just want to thank you for having me back again. It's been a pleasure.
Yep. Antha, you want to plug your guild at all?
No, actually, I'm good.
All right.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah. Ash, anything you want to say before we close out?
No, just it was really fun, and I appreciated the opportunity to join you guys.
Yeah. So thanks for listening to the show, and thanks to my guests here. And thanks to all the other folks that are helping contribute to DDOcast. It's great to have that many folks really helping out with the show. Thanks to Turbine and Wizards of the Coast for making DDO happen, and thanks to Cybears for hosting the podcast. You can hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be part of the show, or if you have a comment on this episode, or a question you'd like to hear us answer, or a topic you'd like to hear us debate, or if you just want to say hi, leave a comment, or you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. Our closing tip for the week. Jump and casting is always better if you have Featherfall. Good tip. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to turn in your anniversary stuff today.